Okay, so we're just over 15 pounds, and I'm going to turn it down to from 10 to 5 on my stove. Hey everyone, welcome back. It's Readiness TV, and we're cooking up some deer meat tonight. So here we go. We got quart jars, ground deer. This is this real good venison. I did it earlier today, and I'm just heating it back up and putting it back in jars. So we're going to be, I'll show you what we're working on here. We got that pot, and then I've got all that deer meat is burger. That's chili grind. It's a little bit rougher grind for making chili. We'll probably do some spices in that one. This is just regular deer meat with some spices in it. So we're going to get this into some bottles and we'll check back. Okay, so we're using the funnel. Got 32-ounce quart jars, and we're just filling them up. There they go. Hey, you want to do one?
Sure.
All right, so this is get that jar there. Okay, we got my son Ryan here is helping out, loading up some venison into the quart jars. How's it going tonight?
Good. Just finishing some stuff for college.
All right, he's working on his college homework.
Yep.
All righty. Okay, so we're going to do another one. Got a clean jar. Got to turn down the boiling water here. Got that down to low. Got another quart jar. This is good stuff for making some spaghetti sauce with meat or chili in a short notice. Come home from work and get some chili going like right away. It's going to be good to have all this in bottles. I had a hard time with this when it was always frozen because it takes a while to defrost it and you just end up not using it. So I think having it in jars is going to be a real benefit. And, okay, and we're going to give these a little bit of a better pack. The last batch I made, I had one jar that kind of overran in the canner a little bit, overflowed. I think I didn't give it enough headspace. I filled it up too high. So that's a learning experience. That's the first batch that happened with. The other two, I didn't have that problem. So I'm just making sure these are packed well, just by going around it. This one could use a little more. And we got a little bit of drippings here. I'm just going to put them in this one here just to get everything. I don't have any waste. All right, that's the pot. Good there. Okay, gonna pack that in. I'm not going to fill these real high. I'm going to get this about to that level and see how that does in the canner. I just didn't like having it overflow, and you see that red juice in the canner. You know that you got a little bit of overflow coming out of one of your lids. So giving it a little bit of headspace is important. Okay. So next we got I like to clean as I go here. Keep a clean kitchen if you can. My helper Callie comes around, she gets all the scraps, anything that hit the floor. Now I'm just putting, before I do that, this is canning salt that I've already got in the, poured out. I'm gonna just do half a teaspoon of canning salt in each jar. Okay, with the salt added, and then we're going to use just regular, just boiling water. We're just going to fill it up to the line on each jar. Put some more water in here, and this is going to be where I boil my lids. Tonight we pressure canned venison that had been defrosted in the refrigerator. It took me several days to get the hard frozen venison out of the freezer to a point where it was malleable enough to work with. So probably like 3 days. I think I took it out on Sunday. Yeah, about 3 days to defrost that in the refrigerator. Well, we're cooking up some deer meat today. I got this venison, and we're searing this meat in the pan, getting it ready to put for canning tonight. You brown the ground deer meat, ground venison, and you don't have to get it all the way cooked. We're just kind of getting it so that it's not raw when we put it in the can. Just a little bit of brownness to it. So I'm almost done here. This is our second batch, second pot of these, and I have a bowl over here that was done earlier. So next we're going to be filling the jars with meat that's been browned. This is one of 2 containers that I have full of ground venison. So basically what we're doing is, here's Callie. She's waiting for any possible meat that might fall on the floor or anything that might spill, so she's helping me out tonight. So you got all the jars. I did the jars earlier, sanitized them in the dishwasher. They're brand new jars. Okay, so we've got our jar funnel, and we're adding our meat into the jar and filling up the pint jar. I want to leave a little bit of headspace for some broth that we're going to be adding in there. Then you have to pack it down to get the air bubbles out of the sides and to help pack the meat down into the jar. So I go around the edge a couple times in the middle to help push it out to the sides. This just helps get all your bubbles out. You don't want air bubbles in there. Okay, and then this meat's very lean. There's very little grease in this once you browned it. It's not like cooking beef where you have a lot of grease to skim off. So that's where it looks like. Now we're going to wipe those jar lids off. But first I'm going to add some broth. So I'll take you over and show you that. Okay, you can see where the meat is. With some headroom in there just below the ring. And then I'm going to add my okay, now that brought the volume just about right for the headroom I need. And I can put the lid on. So before I put the lid on, I got this little towel with white vinegar on it. I'm going to go around the rim and remove any grease or any meat product. If you use the funnel, it makes a big difference in keeping your the lip of your jar clean. And so that's why I'm using that. And you just carefully go around it and make sure there's nothing on there. My lid in a simmering pot over here on the stove, just to soften up that rubber ring. This is a magnetic lifter that you get from just one of the canning tools that you can buy. It helps you lift the lid out. So then we drop it down on the rim, and then it's right there. So next, put a ring on it. Okay, just finger tight. Got a little bit of headroom from the liquid in there, so now I'm going to set that jar aside. Okay, the jars are in. You can see there's 2 levels in there of pint jars, approximately about 8 jars per level. I've got the divider between the 2. This is the All-American pressure cooker. It's a something I just picked up off of Craigslist, which I think was a pretty good find. I think these are kind of a coveted pressure cooker that people that do a lot of this are looking for. So I've been reading up on how to set this up and properly configure it. Lid seats, there's no gasket on this. It's just aluminum on aluminum with a real tight machine fit on this cast aluminum. And then you always do both sides together. So there's the opposite. It's almost like tightening lug nuts on a vehicle. Work across from itself, each nut. So these come up. If they're tight, you got a little bit of looseness up off the bolts on the nut. Okay, and then I just kind of tighten it down just a bit. Now, what you got here is a pressure gauge, which is reading 0 right now. I got the pot on high on the stove, and it's going to be coming up to where the steam starts coming out of this little port right here. And once it really starts blowing out of there, you time it for 10 minutes, and that evacuates all the air out of the pressure cooker and just replaces it with steam. And when that's all done, you actually place this on. Now for my recipe I'm doing, these holes are marked, one's 5, 10, 15 pounds on the jiggler. And I put this weight on here, and then it'll start, when it starts moving, I know it's ready to start timing when that steam's coming out. So you don't start your time until that's actually enough steam's coming out to make that move a little bit. Then you back it off a little bit. So I'll show you that when we get to it. Right now we're just bringing it up to temperature, and I'm waiting for steam. This will probably take about 10-15 minutes to get a good boil going inside. So we'll check back. Okay, so we got the heat's coming up to pressure. Right now, without the weight on there, it's below 5 pounds of pressure right now. And that's because the pressure is escaping out of this hole. You're supposed to let that go 10 minutes. And I've got about another 5 minutes on that. And it'll be ready to put the weight on. Once I put the weight on, the pressure will start to build rather quickly because there's a rapid boil inside this pot now. And the idea here is to get it up to 15 pounds. And I can show you the gauge. You can see it's not quite at 5 yet. And it has to get all the way up to 15. And that weight will hold it exactly at 15, and then I can back the heat off. If you have it set right, it's supposed to rock like 4 times a minute, something like that. So, some people call it the jiggler, some people call it the weight. Whatever it's called, it gets the job done. It keeps it right at 15 pounds or 10 pounds, whatever hole you put it on. You can see on this weight, it actually says on there what the poundage would be. We're going to set it on the 15. Okay, welcome back. We've reached 90 minutes of pressure time at 15 pounds. And I've removed the heat source. I've turned off the electric burner underneath this pot. And it's best not to move the pot with the jars in it. It's just best to let it cool now. And especially important to not remove the weight from the steam port. Just let that continue to jiggle and vent off steam. By not applying any additional heat, eventually that pressure will start to drop. And within 20 minutes or so, it'll be close to zero. You want to wait till it's completely at zero and not putting any steam out of the port. And then it's safe to remove the weight. I read that if you remove the weight early when the steam's pressurized inside the pot, it'll actually suck the contents of your jars out into the pot, which could be kind of cool, but probably not if you just spent the money on canning all this stuff. So we don't want that to happen. Nevertheless, we're going to let this cool down. I'll check back in about a half an hour and see where we're at. Right now we're at a solid 15 pounds on the gauge. Okay, so we're going to check the pot here. We're at 0 pounds of pressure on the gauge. There's no visible steam venting anymore from the weight. So we're ready to go ahead and remove the weight now. I like to get a pot holder just to make sure. This thing's hot. It's a very minor little bit of steam I heard, not much. So we'll let that sit like that for a minute or two. I don't feel any steam or pressure at all coming out of that hole. And the gauge is at 0. So again, we turn it the same way we put it on, opposite sides of the nuts on both sides. Okay. And then I always vent it away from me, just in case. There shouldn't be any pressure in here, and there's not. So I remove the lid. Okay, so I've set out a tea towel on the counter. These jars are still boiling inside. You can see them in the cooker. And you can see that meat still bubbling in there. So those suckers are hot. Okay, this is where your jar lifter earns its money here. It's like molten lava. You can still see it bubbling, but the meat looks really good. It's got a good color. The jars look good. They're not, I put a little bit of vinegar in each one, or in the pot, in the boiling water. and that helps to keep you from getting like lime-looking deposits on everything, or hard water deposits, I guess it is. Leave a little bit of space between each jar so they have some air space to cool. And these are just going to sit here all night. I'll monkey with them in the morning. I'll take the lids. At that point they should have popped. That's the next thing I'm looking for, is the lids will have popped and sucked in if everything goes right. 17 jars, and they're still cooling off. They're bubbling still really hot. So we're gonna let those cool. I'll come back and see if I can get some video of them popping at all. Okay, that jar there just popped, and the lid you can see it kind of sucked down. As they're cooling off, they'll start to pop in, and they're a little bit convex inward. So we'll let those cool.